Good morning. I know we still have people entering the webinar, but we are just so happy that you all have decided to join us for the May webinar covering dual credit updates. It's a lot of good information that's very hot topic for everyone now. And we are excited that you wanted to spend some time with us. As you know, my name is Mitzi Holland, and I'm the director of the Kentucky Advising Academy, and we are an initiative of the Council on Post-Secondary Education. And we are excited today that we are joined by Robin Hebert with the CPE. And in a few minutes, she will be sharing some great information. But in the meantime, I'm going to turn it over to one of our regional coordinators, Ms. Cheryl Brumley.
Hi, everybody. Like Mitzi said, thank you guys so much for being here today. As we're given time for everyone to join us in, we would like you to introduce yourselves in the chat. If you could let us know your name, organization, your title, and for a bit of an icebreaker, if you have any upcoming summer break plans. I know a lot of us are just a month away if we're tied in with the school system to some sweet freedom for a little bit. So if you have any summer break plans, what are those? Welcome. Wow, someone's headed to Mexico. I'm super jealous now. Oh, we have a mission trip to Brazil. That's exciting too.
Hi. Yes.
I'm jealous of all these people leaving the country. Yeah. I went to Mexico for the first time for my honeymoon last year, and it was beautiful. I'm hoping to get to go back. Okay, so go ahead and keep putting your name and organization in our chat there. And if you want to share any fun summer break plans, it's hard to beat Mexico and Brazil, though. So on our agenda for today is going to be a brief introduction to the Kentucky Advising Academy in case we have anyone joining us today that hasn't been with us before. And then I'll turn it over to our guest presenters who'll be sharing some important updates and information about dual credit here in Kentucky. At any time, if you have a question, please feel free to just drop it in the chat. We will have our Kentucky Advising Academy coordinators monitoring the chat. And if we don't get them all answered during this session, then we'll have information on how you can get in touch with us to be sure that that question is answered for you later. We're then going to wrap up by going over some ways to stay connected with the Kentucky Advising Academy. And please stay with us until the end, because we'd like for you to also complete a survey so we can continue to evaluate our work as KAA, help us continue to grow and offer you some great resources. But that's also how you'll earn your ELA credit if you need that for today. So a brief introduction to the Kentucky Advising Academy and what our purpose is. So Kentucky Advising Academy exists to support Kentucky educators and post-secondary professionals in providing students with equitable access to post-secondary advising for successful transitions from secondary education to their desired careers. The KAA does this by providing comprehensive professional learning sessions, online resources, and networking opportunities centered around post-secondary advising. And we have multiple ways that practitioners can choose to be involved in this work that we offer. Monthly, we have our Well Advised podcast, and it's a brief podcast covering timely post-secondary advising topics, as well as this monthly webinar. And frequently they share the same topic, but sometimes they do diverge. So we encourage everybody to check into both of those offerings. We also have a comprehensive online toolkit that we recently shared out with everyone. We'll give you information on how to access that at the end of today as well. And some of you might have joined us before, but we also have our professional learning events that occur all throughout the state. And so if you've joined us for a webinar before, you're taking advantage of all that we offer already, we thank you so much. To accomplish all of those offerings, we have not only our program director who introduced herself, Mitzi Holland, but these regional advising coordinators, and they help execute the structure of the Kentucky Advising Academy. And we would certainly love to have you join us, like I said, in any or all of those opportunities. So when we get to that stay connected portion, be sure to get that information so you can know how to stay connected to our resources at the end of the day. With that, I would like to introduce our guest for today, Senior Fellow with K-12 Policies and Programs at CPE, Robin Hebert, and Trinity Walsh, a face you might recognize as one of the KAA Regional Advising Coordinators, but also serves as Coordinator of Early Post-Secondary Opportunities. Robin, I'm going to pass it off to you. Stop sharing my screen there for you.
Great, thank you, Cheryl. Well, I just want to say thank you to Mitzi and Cheryl and the entire KAA for the invitation today to join the webinar. I am always excited and thrilled to have the chance to share about the work Kentucky's doing around dual credit. Usually I'm on the other side of the microphone, and so today is a little different for me. So I really do appreciate the opportunity to be here and share a little bit. We know our state is not afraid to get out on the edges of what's new in this arena if it means we're opening doors for students and making a difference for their future careers and their future lives. And as I've been watching the chat, I see different roles that you all have, and I know that that is your most important priority. And so I really appreciate you being here today. I just want to let you know a little bit of history that about the past year, our team at CPE has been hard at work with a lot of national and local stakeholders to revise Kentucky's dual credit policy. And that's really the big part of the information that I want to share about today, because the dual credit policy really kind of directs all of the work that we do around support for dual credit. So I want to talk a little bit about what is the heart of the policy. And really it focuses on improving communication, facilitating collaboration, and creating new resources and supports for practitioners around dual credit. And that includes our secondary partners, our post-secondary partners, it includes workforce partners. So a lot of people have been involved in this work, and I think it really benefits so many of us. Trinity and I today are really proud spokespeople, but I just want to let you know that we're representing work that must credit many different contributors. And so we definitely are not taking personal credit for it. We want to acknowledge all of our partners very openly and appreciate them. So we're here to share some of the highlights from our new policy and in this year's work. So I'm going to share my screen now so that you can see some of the actual language from the dual credit policy and talk through a little bit of what has been going on. So in classic Simon Sinek style, we're going to start with our why. So research shows us that students who participate in college and high school programs like dual credit are simply more likely to graduate high school and do that on time. They're more likely to enroll in college, persist in college, and then complete college degrees and credentials. And, you know, that's what we're all about. We also know that students benefit from these programs, all students do, but that especially students who are experiencing poverty or students who are in underrepresented groups, they benefit the most. And the experience has a huge impact on their ability to access and complete college. And so one of our big priorities is to make college more accessible to students who currently are not taking advantage of it. Now, we know that this is also from research, particularly true for programs with strong student supports. So I just want to, congratulate the KAA, because that's what the KAA is all about, providing supports for students and these programs that are intentionally dedicated to promoting equitable outcomes. And so CPE is all about equity. I know that your institutions are all about equity and opening doors for students, especially those who currently do not have open doors. So we know that what we do really matters in terms of student outcomes. So we've been trying to dig in and say, what can we do to improve these programs and outcomes for students? We also know that any college and high school program like dual credit will allow students to complete their degrees or credentials at lower costs than the traditional model. But we also know, that sometimes it even helps students do that on a different timeline than the traditional model. And so not only does that save time, but you all know if you've ever paid college tuition, it also saves money. And so many benefits for students. Another benefit for dual credit is that it can give students this opportunity for growth and exploration. We know that a lot of high school students don't know exactly where they want to go with their careers, but they have ideas. And so a lot of dual credit opportunities provide this kind of large opportunity, a large collection of options for students where they can experience course content. They can learn about the high expectations of post-secondary work. They can learn study habits. They can experience college culture. So there's so many things in addition to saving time, saving money, and the academic experience that students have. So in summary, we know that college and high school programs really bridge the gap between K-12 and higher education and give students a strong on-ramp to their first year of college, and this opportunity to explore educational career options while they're still in a familiar environment. And we're learning more and more about how important that is. When students are still in high school, they have that opportunity to kind of dip their toes in the water of post-secondary experiences while still being in the comfort of the high school and familiar faces and familiar supports. So national and state research studies have consistently shown all of these benefits for dual credit and other college and high school programs. Improved rates of college access, improved rates of college completion, particularly for students of color, first-generation college students, and other students who are underrepresented in higher ed. We've been especially encouraged that even students with disabilities can find considerable value and success in these college and high school opportunities and programs. So these are important mechanisms for advancing student success. And we're excited about the partnerships that we've been able to build over the last year, really looking at alignment between secondary, post-secondary, and workforce, and just trying to provide that seamless transition for students as they move from one sector to the next, because we know that CPE's 60 by 30 goal is kind of supported by this work that we're doing for students to have these post-secondary degrees and credentials that help them ultimately enter the workforce in meaningful careers that are also very very lucrative and that will support, a good life for them. All right, so that's what we know. So we've talked a lot over the last year about, so if we're going to really dig in and work on dual credit in Kentucky, what is our vision? What do we hope to see happen? And so we've articulated that in our dual credit policy. And so you can see here that our vision is to provide all high school students, and that means every high school student, with an opportunity. Now, that doesn't mean that we think every high school student will take advantage of that opportunity, but we want them to have the opportunity to participate in dual credit in this supported environment that we've been talking about, so that they can achieve their post-high school plans, whatever that is, whatever career that is that they like to engage. And also to significantly reduce the cost or the time to that college degree or credential. In addition, we want to think about if this is what, if this is where we want to go, then what do we know about our current rates of participation in Kentucky? So you can see here that participation in dual credit has steadily increased since the 2016-17, kind of in that area, date range. And this is when the dual credit scholarship program was first introduced into Kentucky. And you can see that that prompted tremendous growth, but there is still a lot of work to be done. We know that our white female students take advantage of dual credit at higher rates than other student demographics do. And so we hope to change that such that all students have the opportunity to take advantage of this incredible thing. So this slide here was provided by Becky Gilpatrick from KIA. So I'm going to give a shout out to her and really appreciate it shows more of the dual credit story. And you can see that the number of unduplicated students who are accessing the dual credit scholarship program continues to increase. And that's great news for us. And she also told me that for this school year, we're even outpacing last school year. So the state has significant investment in these programs, and also a quick shout out to the Kentucky Lottery that provides funding, a lot of funding for the dual credit scholarship program. So you can see that this kind of takes the next step past the last graphic that you saw about numbers of students who are participating. So now that Kentucky has dual credit kind of off the ground over the last 8 years, it's a really good time for us to stop and think and reflect about how we can make the experience even more meaningful, even more impactful for students. We just simply want to keep getting better. So in our stakeholder groups this past year, I have heard this popular and somewhat comical refrain about random acts of dual credit. And so our stakeholders kind of talk about how more students are taking dual credit, but they don't necessarily always know why they're taking it. They don't necessarily know to what end, or they don't necessarily see how it fits in with the path that they are on. So we all agree that it's really important for us to define what is the ideal dual credit experience for students. What would that even look like? And so what you see here on the screen are some of the words from the policy that we think help to really communicate the priorities for our secondary and post-secondary partners. So first of all, this idea of careful selection of meaningful courses. And by meaningful, that means courses that are aligned to students' future goals, their future plans. And also that these are highly transferable, that they're rigorous, that they really give students an idea of what post-secondary coursework is like, and that will ultimately lead to profitable employment in high-demand career sectors. Secondly, the ideal dual credit experience should help students develop this sense of, I belong in college. We've talked so much and heard so much from stakeholders this past year about students' sense of worthiness, or sense that I can do this, or I can accomplish this goal. And so when they are successful in dual credit coursework, it really helps them to build this persistence and this sense of worthiness for college, where they believe, you know what, I really can do this. And so that's a huge benefit, and something that we think is part of that ideal experience. Thirdly, students should also understand where they're going college and career-wise. Now, that's not to say they have to have everything completely figured out when they're juniors or seniors in high school, but they should have a strong sense of how the dual credit course will help them figure it out and will help them get there. So that's also part of that ideal experience for students. The fourth part of that ideal experience is about communication. We heard from students and families, all of our partners, that sometimes communication is difficult with dual credit. And I think part of that is because we have so many partners. There's so many cooks in the kitchen when it comes to dual credit. And it's like, okay, whose responsibility is it to send this message? And whose responsibility is it to do that? And so communication should be clear. And it should be a priority from the high school and the post-secondary institution. And all students should be aware of the opportunity. We heard from so many students who said, when I got to be a junior or senior in high school, I didn't even know that this was an option. I didn't know it was possible. And so, we've heard strong messaging that dual credit should be a normalized part of every high school student's journey, and that maybe even as early as middle school, students and their families should be hearing about the opportunity and how they can get there. It's a really sad thing when a student gets to be a junior or senior in high school and then realizes they have this opportunity, but because their grades are not where they need to be, or some other barrier, they're not able to take advantage. We don't want it to be too late for students to take advantage when they find out about the opportunity. So communication early and often is another part of that ideal experience. So another addition to our 2023 revision of the dual credit policy is our very first of its kind dual credit attainment goal. And when I say first of its kind, I mean first of its kind in the nation. Now, if any of you all know Aaron Thompson, you know he loves first of its kind in the nation for anything at CPE, but we are super proud of this attainment goal. We have articulated together what we will accomplish together by 2030. And although it's tempting to stay here for a while, I do not want to steal Trinity's thunder. She's going to talk a lot more about the attainment goal a little bit later on. But what I would like to say is that when you see the attainment goal, that 50% of high school students will graduate having completed at least one dual credit course with a qualifying grade of C or higher. I want to just be really clear. We don't mean to imply that we want students to take only one course, but we want more students to take at least one course. And we don't mean to imply that we're shooting for C's. That is not what we're shooting for. But what we're shooting for is for students to feel successful in their dual credit course. We want them to experience success so that they build that sense of belonging. They build that sense of persistence, that idea that I can do this and I belong here. So we definitely want everyone who is currently taking advantage of dual credit courses to continue to do so. We don't want to slow that down at all. But the point of this goal is that we want to add to what we have. We want to open up access to more students who currently do not have or are not taking advantage of the opportunity that dual credit affords. So as you're looking at the goal, I want you to remember that ideal experience that we talked about earlier. And I want you to remember that idea of random acts. We don't want random acts of dual credit. We're not just trying to force more students into this experience. But what we do want is for the experience to become more equitable so that our student demographic that's taking and passing dual credit courses matches Kentucky's student population. That's really important to us from an equity standpoint. So you can see the second part of that goal is that we want to increase enrollment in the areas where students are currently not taking advantage. So, as we mentioned before, we know that some of those student groups are not represented well enough in our data, and we want to prioritize some efforts and some strategies so that we can see more growth, especially among these students. So how will we get there? Our dual credit policy revision identifies 6 kind of specific strategies that we think will help move the needle in the right direction. So you can see here that prioritizing access among students with limited or no access to dual credit courses is one of our strategies. And we'll talk a little bit later on about an opportunity for a dual credit community of practice that we have. But what we want is to really involve Kentucky educators, practitioners in figuring out if there are barriers in front of certain student groups. How do we identify and move those barriers, help them get access that they don't currently have? The second strategy would be to provide meaningful dual credit experiences related to those students' post-secondary career goals. And that goes back to that. We want to eliminate the random acts and make those experiences more meaningful for students. We want to support students through high quality college and career advising. And this is an example that we want to go back and another shout out to the KAA. This is what their work is about, is making sure that students have great support as they are engaging in dual credit. And then we have these last 3 strategies here of strengthening our partnerships so that our policies and our practices are more equitable, maintaining and communicating and continuing to expand support for that state dual credit scholarship program, and to increase the number of teachers who are credentialed for dual credit in Kentucky. So I want you to know that there are specific efforts at the state level for all 6 of these strategies. Some of them we'll get to faster than others because some of these needles are kind of hard to move. But we are just fully acknowledging that these things need to happen in order for us to move forward with dual credit. So in looking at number 5 about maintaining, communicating, and expanding support for the state's dual credit scholarship program, and also in thinking about communication, I'd like to give another shout out to Becky Gilpatrick at KAA for this really helpful slide that clearly explains the dual credit scholarship and the Work Ready dual credit scholarship. This is the very kind of communication effort that we're talking about. I bet you love this slide. I love this slide. I can take no credit for creating it, but I do love it. And, you know, I just have to imagine if every high school parent and every high school student in Kentucky could see this graphic in a really clear and concise way. This is an example of the kind of communication that we're trying to produce, and the kind of support that we're trying to provide for students, families, and practitioners. All right, so of course, CPE is working hard to increase access and to operationalize this dual credit policy with many supports, and just continuing to innovate and you know, give careful thought and consideration to how we can support. So the KAA, of course, is a great example of how quality advising for college and career can make such a difference for students. Our EPSO team, our early post-secondary opportunity team, has also created a toolkit. We call it our EPSO toolkit, but it contains many resources for dual credit programming. So it's sort of aligned around all of the sections of the dual credit policy. And so it really can be helpful for practitioners in the field for giving examples of bright spots, what we call bright spots in our schools and our universities where excellent work is taking place. So this EPSO toolkit is a brand new, it's a baby document, but it is a living document. And so I really want to ask you to partner with us, dig into this, take advantage of what's there that might be helpful to you. But I really want to challenge you and ask you to give us feedback and suggestions for additional content that is needed or that would be helpful. On the homepage of this document, there is a link where you can send us a message about some resource that you know about that might be helpful, or something that you think we should go and find and add to the toolkit. So we'll provide links for all of these things that I'm sharing now at the end of the presentation. We also just wrapped up a Dual Credit in Kentucky webinar series that was really popular and very well attended. When you all were entering the room, I could see quite a few familiar names. I know that some of you have participated in some of these sessions. Our webinar series featured experts from the secondary and post-secondary world. And so there's very little talking from me and Trinity on these webinars, but a lot of talking from experts who were sharing their practices, like what do they do to address these different topics that you see on the screen. So the very best news is, even though the Dual Credit in Kentucky webinar series wrapped up this past week, all of it is archived, so you can access these recorded conversations and all the resources that these experts in the field were willing to share, even if you missed the live broadcast. So if any of these topics interest you, we'll share a link with you shortly about how you can access those, and you can listen to them, and you can even, I'll give you permission now to put it on 2 times speed. You know, will sound funny, but you can listen to it in an abbreviated amount of time and still get all the information. Finally, I wanted to let you know that we have an upcoming professional learning opportunity that we hope you'll consider. In the next few weeks, we're going to officially launch a dual credit community of practice. And the idea is that we just really want to continue to involve stakeholders and practitioners in this brainstorming and this improvement system that we have around dual credit. So these communities of practice will address real Kentucky problems. So they'll identify problems of practice related to dual credit, and then together throughout the upcoming school year, develop resources and solutions that can be shared statewide and that can help lift the entire dual credit ship of Kentucky. So if you're interested in participating with this, You can see the QR code there on the screen. So please just fill it out, give us your contact information, and we'll reach out to you with additional information and an invitation. It's just like those TV offers. There is no obligation for signing up. You can say no after you've said yes today. But if you're interested and you'd like to learn more, just let us know who you are, and we'll reach out. To give you even more information. Okay, so Trinity and I, we are exhausted, but we are excited and we are encouraged about the progress that we're making in dual credit in Kentucky. We are so thankful for all of the participation. Today's turnout has been amazing. And we have just always had so many people who are willing to step up to the plate and say, I'll help, I'll tell you what I'm doing, I'll share my information, I'll share my resources. And so we're really grateful for that. We know that students' benefits are well documented for dual credit. We know that our collective work is worth the effort that we're making right now. I know it's a lot, but we know that it's worth it. So please reach out to anyone on our team if we can help or support your local efforts for dual credit programming in any way. Please get involved with us, let your voice be heard and your contributions, because we absolutely love to elevate great ideas and innovation in this space. So thanks again to Cheryl and Mitzi for letting me share all these things. As you can tell, these are all things that I'm so excited about and really care about. So I'm going to turn the mic over now to my colleague, Trinity Walsh, and she's going to take us into some deeper discussion about the dual credit attainment goal and take our conversation home.
All right, thank you so much, Robin. As we wrap up today, I want to take you back to the dual credit attainment goal and this idea of having 50% of our students graduating with earning credit in at least one dual credit course. And that might seem daunting, but as you can see from our previous percentages from past years, we're already on that path. There's absolutely no reason we can't gain 1 percentage point each year until 2030. And it really only takes very small moves. So what do I mean when it takes only small moves? If each public high school in Kentucky added 1 to 2 more students each year, we can meet that goal. But rather than just meeting the 50% goal, what if we could also close our underrepresented student gaps while attaining this goal? And how can we intentionally add 1 or 2 underrepresented students each year? And that's back to what Robin was talking about before, making sure that we are being equitable for all of our students in the state. So how can we examine these populations in a meaningful way? So we're not just working towards attainment goal, but we're also working to make our dual credit programs better for students we might be missing. These gaps are not insurmountable. We estimate in order to close those gaps statewide, we need to add approximately 500 new underrepresented students each year who complete a dual credit course with a qualifying grade above the levels they are participating at right now. So we have 443 public high schools in the state of Kentucky, and that amounts to dual credit programs needing to add, again, just 1 or 2 new underrepresented students per high school who to complete 1 dual credit course with a qualifying grade each year between now and 2030. We can totally do this. At the end of our webinar series, I would propose and give all of the participants a challenge, an opportunity to grow their dual credit programming, a way to make sure that we're providing dual credit access to each high school student in the state of Kentucky. These challenge resources will be available on the resource sheet that I'll share with you in a few minutes, but I would also encourage you to look at the challenge documents in the CPE dual credit recordings resources for practitioners. There's tons of information there. And again, if you ever need anything for our early post-secondary opportunities, please feel free to reach out to Robin or me. Our contact information and Twitter handles are right there on the screen, and we are happy to connect with you. And now we're going to open up the webinar for some questions, and I'm throwing it to Cheryl and Robin.
Yeah, so like mentioned earlier, if anyone has any questions, feel free to come off mute and go ahead and ask those now. Likewise, you're also welcome to pop them into the chat. and we will get those answered for you. No, this was a lot of information in a short amount of time. So, and I believe Trinity just shared that early post-secondary opportunity resource list and toolkit link. So a lot of the links that were mentioned during the duration of the webinar so far are housed all in that document. So it's kind of a one-stop shop for anyone needing that access.
So Cheryl, this is Shelley. I'm just going to jump in if that's okay.
Yeah.
Thank you for this information. And I'm with the AmeriCorps, the Kentucky College Coaches Program, and we have 65 coaches throughout the state of Kentucky serving alongside with Gear Up and the college career counselors at the schools. So this information is so powerful. We will definitely share it with all of our coaches, to continue to support dual credit. Also, as a parent, I think I say this every time we're together, like this information is so incredible. And that graphic you shared, yes, let's get that to parents. I mean, I share it and I talk to them blue in the face about dual credit. And I don't know, we just got it's a hard nut to crack, I guess, with AP schools, yada, yada. So I'm excited. I think you said you'll share that graphic, right? Okay, because I'm going to post that on our parent page as a parent advocate. The other piece I think is to think about is with all of these initiatives, how can our 65 college coaches help our schools support this? And or how can we collaborate with Gear Up more, and how can we do that? And I just want to say that now in front of everybody too, that that's what we're here for, and to help support. So if you guys have ideas or thoughts, we're welcome to all of that. And even if there's an opportunity where you want to speak to all of our coaches, we meet monthly. We would welcome you to come and talk to them as well. Karen, I don't know if you want to add anything. I'm putting you on the spot, but I just want to make sure that you all know we are so welcome to that and excited to share everything that we can.
Thank you, Shelley. The only thing I would add off the top of my head is, we have seen some partnerships already with the KCTCS schools for some of our coaches that they're, some high schools are adding, a second coach or a third coach to really just help support their dual credit students, whether they're work ready dual credit or traditional dual credit. So we're just excited about how our program is changing and adapting to the interest in dual credit, and especially now with this new these new attainment goals. So yeah, thank you so much.
So Shelley and Karen, thank you so much for the invitation, and Trinity and I would love to partner with you and talk with your coaches. One of the things we've really just been learning over the past year with all the different stakeholders and partners that we've worked with is how there's just so much goodwill around dual credit, but a lot of kind of disjointed efforts. And so that's one of the things that we really want to try to prioritize is kind of streamlining what we do and streamlining messaging around dual credit, so that students and parents are receiving the kind of the same information, and so that everybody's not trying to solve the same problem. If we solve the problem together and share what we've learned, that it's so much more efficient, and and just builds a lot of collaboration and goodwill. So thank you so much for the invitation. Please follow up with us, and we would love to partner with you.
We'll do that. Thank you. And I will add one more thing too, just to think about is like you're saying, that stronger message. I think that is important. Like, what is the ticket? Like, what are we finding that somebody will say, and the parents and the schools and the kids are like, ah, like that is, I would love to know that key ingredient.
Yeah. Well, I think the document that Trinity shared, sometimes the documents that we have in the research are kind of in education ease, and like the language that we speak that maybe Kentuckians who are not educators maybe don't speak. And so I think trying to make the benefits of dual credit more, just more clear, the long-term benefits in terms of post-secondary degrees and credentials, and helping students get where they want to go, in terms of this can help you have the life that you want. This is like step one along this continuum toward that future that you envision. Is just such a powerful thing. And when we've heard from some different students and families, especially, we hear stories about, like, this seems unbelievable to me, that like a student might be enrolled in a dual credit class and not even know it's a dual credit class, that might happen. It's unbelievable to me that could happen, but we've heard it from actual students and families. And so, I just think communication is such a key part of all of this, and helping people see the pathway, like, how do I go from here to where I want to be? And so appreciative of the KAA and how the advising and college and career support is, moving the needle in that direction.
Okay, so I can't be quiet today. I promise my last comment. I think that is important, because that's what we see with our college coaches, right? Because they have just a smaller cohort, so they're ready. They're able to have those direct connections. And then parent hat, right? I can totally see my son took dual credit. He didn't have a choice because I was his mother. And I don't think that he would have taken it had it not been for that. And Shelby Krentz, I know, is on the call, and I've learned everything I know about dual credit from her. I'm so appreciative of that. But yeah, I mean, I can't believe kids would do that and didn't even know. How incredible. But anyways, okay, I'm done. Thank you.
Thank you, Shelley. My name is Wanda Shaw with Simmons College, and I recruit at high schools. And I was just wondering, what could we do to encourage that? What could our school do? I mean, is there anything that colleges can do to encourage students? I mean, what message should we project to them when we're recruiting them? Hey, take this class, take this, do that.
Thank you, Wanda, for the question. I think the answer is yes, there are things that you can do. And these are not things that I knew because I did them, but these are things I learned from the Dual Credit in Kentucky webinar series that we've done with our experts out in the field. I would really encourage you to go and look at some of the resources that are there. And I would be very happy to have an ongoing conversation with you about this and connect you with maybe some folks who are doing some great work here. But yes, some of our institutions have reached out to their secondary partners and go kind of beyond the required, like, let's have an MOU or MOA, whatever you want to call it. Let's have this agreement. But then they also form friendships and partnerships where they call and text, and the work becomes very personalized for them and those conversations. And so it's been really eye-opening to me as we've invited different teams to our webinars that include a secondary and post-secondary partner, about how their working relationship has evolved and developed over time to really address some of those issues. Like, how do we get the word to students? How do we get the word to parents? And how they've been able to work together to do that. That's where you see some real success in those areas. I know, some of the post-secondary partners provide different kinds of reporting just because they're nice enough to do that. They're not required to do it, but they report back about student demographics and all kinds of data to their school. And then they continue to have conversations with the counselors or other support staff at the secondary school as well. So I probably haven't answered your question exactly, but I do want to say there is hope that can happen because we see it happening in pockets around the state. And like I said, we love to elevate great stories. So let's work on that together.
Thank you kindly. Appreciate it.
I see
All right,
that
before we wrap-
I was just going to say, I
sorry,
see
go
a
ahead.
lot of our Gear Up partners on the webinar today too. So I want to say hello and shout out to them. I know that they could probably speak a lot into this work with, direct work with students and families even better than I can. And so I would welcome additional comments from any of those partners as well.
Before we get off here, Robin, I just want to say thank you. And I know Cheryl's got some follow-up, but you've presented a lot of great information. And I wanted to mention to everyone, I did drop the link to our toolkit, and Cheryl will talk about that in a little bit. But I did want to point out that your toolkit is linked into ours. So that is one way to access the EPSO toolkit is through the KAA advising toolkit. So, and I know Cheryl's going to talk about that a little bit more, but I just wanted to point that out.
Absolutely, Mitzi. And your toolkit is in ours too. So if you got one of them on the desktop, you can get to the other one. So that's good. Thank you.
Do we have any other final thoughts or comments before we wrap it up for us here today?
Hi, it's Kim Welch with the Executive Director of Gear Up Kentucky. I just wanted to say a couple things and then ask a question. First of all, I think this collection of resources is something that Kentucky and Gear Up and folks like Kentucky College coaches have needed for a long time. So congratulations and thank you on everything that's been assembled. We're excited about the goal that we've set, and very much like Shelley said, we want to equip our staff and really everybody working in the school building and families especially to access this now that dual credit is more accessible than it has ever been. So thanks, Shelley, for your comments. I appreciate that. And, I wanted to kind of follow up on something that you said about informing our families. And I know you were kind of talking within, the context of sharing what are the benefits here. And my question is, and I started digging down in this toolkit, which I haven't got to dig super down into quite yet, but my question is, and I asked this literally from a parent perspective. I have a 10th grader this year who just completed her first dual credit course at BCTC, and even having worked in this field for 10 years, it was a difficult process to navigate as a parent. And even our school counselors, in Fayette County, were struggling to know where to direct us. And so we played a lot of ping pong in between a couple of institutions and just really like, what does the counselor need? What does Kia need? What does the institution need? So I guess my question is, and we would be happy to partner on this if it doesn't exist yet. Is it possible, or does it already exist, some sort of like step-by-step how-to for students and parents so that, the Gear Up person or the school counselor in the building is not the only person that owns this information, right? And we can get that out. And I say that understanding that like the process can look very different, right? From school to school and district to district. So I know that is a hard thing to do. But, is there some general kind of step-by-step guidance we can give our families?
Kim, that is such a great question. And the big hurdle or the big barrier, just like you said, is that right now it it varies from institution and agreement to agreement. Excuse me. But I think one of the things we've learned from the webinar series is that some of our secondary institutions and our post-secondary institutions have what they call communication protocols in place. And so even though we can't say, here's your protocol, use this, we can encourage the use of a communication protocol that kind of identifies steps along the way that will help to, share key information with students and families. So the key information might be slightly different from institution to institution, but the need to know part is kind of consistent. And so we've learned that from some of our partners who have those kind of protocols in place. So we want to elevate that idea. It's still on the post-secondary and the secondary institution to kind of agree to what that protocol is and partner to make sure that the communication is actually shared. But I do think that there are some practices or some protocols we could put in place that are kind of consistent that might help people communicate more with more clarity and frequency. Back to the idea of education ease, I think some of us who are deep in the systems assume that people know things they don't know.
Right.
And,
Yeah.
and so I think it's better to assume nothing and then over communicate
That's right.
rather than under communicate. So we hope to elevate some of those protocols that could be used. So I hope that's helpful a little bit.
Yes, yeah, it's helpful. And I mean, like I said, we're happy to partner, think around that and what can we do that's general, kind of some general, like, where do I even start? Like, where do I start? Who do I talk to first? So yeah, thank you. Thanks for that, Robin.
All right. Well, if there are no more questions, anybody? Okay, well, thank you guys for such thoughtful discussion and like some really good questions. I feel like the questions always just kind of highlight why, why we're all here and why all of us here are probably doing what we're doing, just how important this is for student success and student transition and ultimately like success in, the state of Kentucky. So thank you all for being here today. We're going to wrap up, like we said, here. I'm going to share my screen. So as we near the end of our time together, I would love to encourage you to, like we mentioned at the beginning, to stay connected with the Kentucky Advising Academy. We are taking a brief summer break for June and July, since I know a lot of our professionals and educators that join us are probably also going to be on break in June and July. So we'll be back in August with our next iteration of the webinar series. So please be on the lookout on social media and online and email of when that will be in August. As it also was mentioned, I would like to share our newly launched college and career advising toolkit. So just like the early post-secondary opportunity toolkit, the Kentucky Advising Academy has an advising toolkit, and this can be accessed by the URL provided on the screen or this QR code. It is also being added in the chat, and I believe Mitzi said she had already added it a little earlier as well. This resource is designed to support all post-secondary advising systems and offers a comprehensive collection of tools, information, and resources that serve as a hub for advisors across the entire Commonwealth. So this newly launched toolkit will help advisors gain an understanding of the foundational elements to effectively advise high school students to and through those vital and important post-secondary transitions. And hopefully advisors will use the toolkit to gain more insight into topics such as career and academic advising, student development, student belonging, and more. Each topic each topic also has housed a quick guide document, and that includes important pieces of information that you might need when advising students. And these quick guide documents can also be downloaded and printed if needed to share with other practitioners, students, or even family members, which that's really probably one of my favorite pieces, that you can also, really serve those that you are serving by sharing these downloaded versions or printing those out. And we hope you'll take advantage of that new resource. So how to stay connected with KAA, you can always find up-to-date information on our website, which is being sent right now in the chat as well. And you can subscribe to our communications, including updates about podcasts and webinars and our informational emails regarding our in-person events. We'd also love for you to follow us on social media. We are at Advising Kentucky on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. And we often share upcoming events about advising information on those channels as well. But we also have a YouTube. Our YouTube is where we'll be posting today's webinar for anyone who might have missed it live, if you would like to share it, as well as any webinar we've done in the past is also posted on our YouTube account. You can find that by searching Kentucky Advising Academy. And last but not least, thank you for joining us, and we would love it if you could complete this survey for us. It's a way for us to continue improving our work as the Kentucky Advising Academy and the offerings that would best serve you. And this is also how we'll know to process your ELA credit if you need that. So please follow the URL that is on the screen or provided in the chat, or the QR code if you prefer. And again, the email you provide on this will let us know where to send your ELA if you need that credit or not. But like I said, we appreciate the feedback and evaluation, even if you don't need the ELA credit. Again, thank you guys for joining us today. We hope to see you at future events, and I hope everyone has a wonderful day.